annoying, and you just have to start eating dinner later. That kind of
adjust the
thing.
schedule.
But it takes a lot of discipline, and working from home is not for a lot of people.
No, it's great for and you feel liberated, but it's still structure.
Yeah,
it still has to have structure to be productive.
Yeah, you have to separate. Like, your office has to be in a different room. You need to be able to set time limits. I mean, granted, I do things like, hey, while I'm making lunch, I'll start the dishwasher, or I'll empty the dishwasher, or I'll throw a load of laundry in, because it takes 2 minutes to come back out and throw it in the basket or throw it in the dryer, whatever. But that frees up that time that I don't have to do it when my wife's home.
Right.
So you start to pick up on things like that. But some people, I've talked with some people that are like, I can't work from home because I play video games all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a PlayStation now. I don't touch it ever. It's unfortunate.
I got stuck playing a game called City of Heroes years ago with all the guys that I worked with at Cartoon Network. And I would race home from work and play it till 2 a.m. And then we'd get back to work and we'd talk about all that happened last night and then do it all over again. And and all my freelance suffered for it. Thankfully, at the time, I had a full-time gig.
Right.
Excuse me, but I had an Xbox, sent it to my nephew. He wanted one. I was like, I need to get this out of the house.
Yeah.
So I don't find myself distracted, because I will. And I'm the kind of guy who, starts up a new Xbox game and, I'll just play it for an hour. And 4 hours later, I'm like, that project didn't get done.
Yeah.
And I know that about myself, so I intentionally keep away from it.
Yeah. So the freelancing, then you were when you move into the freelancing part of your career, you had already you were already taking freelance jobs before when you had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yes, people were looking for you. They asked you to do things outside of they would reach out to you, and they had nothing to do with the work that you were doing.
Yeah. Very early on, when I started working with the animation studio in Minneapolis, there was some downtime there, and I went and I got a job as an artist at a company that designed baseball caps. And they're the baseball caps you find at Walmart and Target and whatnot. And I got the job based on the fact that I could draw the characters, but I had to learn how to use the computer, because they were designing the artwork to be sent to to be stitched. So we actually had license for Disney and Warner Brothers, and so I got to draw Taz a million times. So there was a guy that I worked with there that one day was like, hey, you need to learn how to get clients to do freelance work, because you can make a bunch of extra cash on the side. And so at the time, he was doing T-shirts for a lot of snowmobile companies like Polaris. And so he would take me along when he would have, at lunch, we'd go and grab something quick to eat, and then we'd stop at his clients for him to either pick up a check or drop off a project. And so through that, I got to know a lot of people, and I met up with a screen printer. And so the screen printer would just hey, the local grade school needs new, basketball jerseys for all the kids. Do you want to design a character to go on it? And, things like that. Or, hey, I've got this client that wants a family T-shirt for a reunion or something.
Sure.
So I kind of got in through that, and so I've always kind of picked up that little extra stuff. And it keeps you fresh. It's something fun to do that's not your typical client work. And as much as I loved Cartoon Network, when you're drawing Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Samurai Jack, you kind of get into this. For 10 years, you're doing that same stuff, and you kind of get into this rut of wanting to do your own style. And so having those...
And you grow in your art, in your own style.
Absolutely.
You grow as an artist, but you're still drawing the same style, the same characters all this time.
Yeah.
And feel boxed in.
I get so many people that come up to me when I'm selling my art at conventions that look at my art and say, wow, that one looks, kind of like it's Disney, or that one looks like Animaniacs or or Looney Tunes, because I've done so much of that it's become part of my own style. The eyes, Bugs Bunny eyes just make their way into stuff.
Nice. You said something about keeping things fresh. So when you started off your keeping projects, new projects, different projects, so there's something fresh that you're working on, and not something that you're stuck in doing for long periods of time. Is that how you look at your freelance? Do you try to go look for customers? Do you even look for customers now? I know you've been doing it for a few years, but how do you jump from type of project to another project?
A lot of it depends on the time of year and the amount of work that's coming in. Most people aren't looking to get our projects done in the first quarter just because they spend all their money in the fourth quarter to make, before taxes happen. So first quarter tends to be quiet, and that's when I find myself mostly doing that kind of self-promotion, because I'm out there looking for, who wants something. Usually they end up being smaller businesses or, just kind of a t-shirt design or a logo design, smaller end stuff. Whereas, and I'm always asking around all the studios at that point, hey, let me know if you got anything, I'm available. Along with, 100 other animators in town making those same phone calls. And so, so you do what you can. You make the best of it. I'm doing my own artwork that I'm selling at conventions and whatnot, and that seems to be a good time for me to do that art, just because it's my slower time of year. But then when I get into like third and fourth quarter, especially, like I don't look for the work. It's finding me, and a lot of it is just because I've been doing it so long. I've made a lot of great contacts. Like I said, I did a that food truck, and 2 weeks later, the food truck is up in Cleveland, Ohio. 2 weeks later, a friend of that guy calls me to do his bar's logo. I mean, it starts to come to me. Word of mouth just spreads. So
starts to happen. That's good.
And I've met so many people, working at studios like Cartoon Network that have since moved on, and then they're calling me back, going, "Hey, I'm over at this company. You want to do some work for us?" So,
would you take a job now? A position somewhere, if offered?
Yes, I would if it was the right opportunity. I've turned down several. I had what started to sound like some great opportunities to go out to California, and the culture in the game studios is very different than what I'm used to. A lot of the companies, like when you get into like Zynga and some of the offshoots or people that have left there and started their own smaller startups, it's a younger crowd working there, younger owners, younger managers, and it seems like in many cases they're not married. They're married to work, and they don't see any issue in spending 12 hours a day at the office and going in on weekends. Now I get it. Especially projects with deadlines, you're gonna have that last week. You're gonna put in some extra time.
Yeah.
I'm about to turn 43. I'm married, I have a dog. I don't want to be at the office for 10-hour days. I just don't. It's one thing when I'm at home when I can, turn things off and go sit in the other room and I don't have to sit in the, traffic for an hour.
Right.
But yeah, I got it. I was really close to taking this job out in the San Francisco area, and the guy's like, "Oh man, really excited! We can't wait to get you in here." And he's like, "I was like, so tell me a little bit about the office." And he's like, "Well, we have free breakfast, lunch, dinner, free childcare, free gym." And I was like, "Whoa, dude, do you ever want me to leave the office?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, a lot of people tend to put in a lot of hours here." And I said, "This just isn't the right culture for me. I'm sorry. I can't take it." I said, "Not only am I moving across the country, but you don't want me to see my wife."
Right.
You know, and that's not why I got married.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
You get married because you want to see her all the time.
Yeah.
And what?
Yeah, they don't want you to spend time with them. So
when I was in the Marine Corps, they used to say that to us. If the Marine Corps wanted you to have a wife, they would have issued you one.
yeah, exactly. I can see that. That's funny.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find something that doesn't fit that these days, especially with and I know this sounds kind of egotistical, but I'm 42, about to turn 43. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm not going to take a job that's not going to have a really good paycheck, really good benefits, because I don't want to. I don't want to make a step back or lateral move. It definitely has to be a good step forward. If it's going to be full time, it's got to be more of an art director kind of thing versus
grinder.
Yeah, I don't want to just be an animator sitting in the corner knocking out drawings. I can do that at home,
right? And
that's what I'm doing at home. So why do I want to go somewhere else and do it for somebody else when I'm doing it at home and probably making more money?
Right.
So again, it just comes down to the right opportunity. It's
nice.
A good company to work for, because I've had some clients that were difficult to work with.
Yeah.
And I just, it has to have direction, as far as they need to know what they're doing with their projects and where they're going with it as a business. And a lot of these companies now are just like, we have this one thing and we're putting all our efforts into it. And when that's done, we'll see what happens. And I'm not moving across the country for that.
Yeah. I got you. You want to? Yes. I'm 43. Let's see. Am I 43? I think I'm 43. Yeah. I forget what year we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 43. Same thing. Yeah. It's all about whether is that something you want to add to what you do now?
Yeah.
Or not. So tell us about the meetups. I know a little bit about it because I've been to a couple of them.
Sure. So this time last year, I put together what's called the Atlanta Comic and Animation Artists Meetup. It started because when you're an animator, you work in a studio on a project. When the project's done, you move on. Sometimes you end up at the same studio you were at. Sometimes you're at a different one. And within that, you start to make friends. And so, you're working close with these guys for a couple of months on a project, and then all of a sudden, hey, this guy's over at that studio and that other guy's over there, and you're here, and granted you start to make new friends, but at the same time you're like, hey, what happened to Joe? So every now and then I run into Joe, and it's usually, hey, we're both happen to be at this event, and it's like, oh my god, how you been? What have you been doing? Oh, I wish we should get together sometime. Now, there's a couple of guys in town that have a lunch that they get together, a lot of the local animators. Unfortunately, it's kind of sporadic when it happens, and it's oftentimes hard for some of the people to get out of work to meet for lunch. Especially, you try to make a central location, but it doesn't always work for everybody.
Sure. So
I started thinking back to when I went to the meetup in Minneapolis when I got started. And it was like, that was a great place to not only see all these people once a month, but for new people to come in and, kind of make those connections, ask those questions, and hopefully, I'm being to someone what someone was to me once.
Yes.
Like if somebody wants to come up to me and go, hey, I'd really like you to look at my sketchbook. What kind of stuff do you recommend? I love your stuff. How do you do this? I'm more than happy to sit down with someone and, they just ask the right question. So I mostly started it because I wanted to see those old friends, have an excuse like, hey, let's get together. And unfortunately, all the old timers are the ones not showing up. Not that I mind the new guys coming in. That's great. I love meeting everybody. It just bums me out a little that I don't get to see Joe
Yeah.
You know, those kind of guys come
'Cause
out.
he got a wife and he wants to be with his wife. Now
Yeah. He's like,